Just when you think we've been through just about every kind of commander, and they have different types of things that they do, from all the different damages of skill damage and smite damage and combo damage and true damage, and then the buffing and the debuffing and the rage consumption and all the things and all the stacks and all the things, then this guy comes out. And I'm going to tell you about this guy, Arslan, okay? He released in the game yesterday. We're going to talk in depth about him today because he buffs and debuffs like crazy. And depending on which commander you put him with, it enhances the buffing and debuff. So stick around while we go through this thing and see if this guy is actually going to be a meta commander in Rise of Kingdoms. Hey everybody, it's your boy War Daddy Chadsky. I do videos for Rise of Kingdoms all the time, and I love doing these videos. And if you would be so kind, if you got some entertainment value or for helping out your account and giving you a pathway to be better, to figure out what to use, throw a like up here. Really helps out the video and helps out the channel. Also, if you are not subscribed, consider doing so. You can hit that subscribe button and you can hit that bell to get any alerts when I put out content like this. And we're in the middle of our video giveaways. For every video, I'm going to give away a $10 flux, okay? And I did 2 videos yesterday. All you have to do to enter to win is put a comment down in the comment section. That's it. That's it. And then I'll announce the winner for this video in the next video. Well, I had 2 videos yesterday, so I've got to get to 2 winners. So let's have it, man. First winner, and this becomes the comment that was on the Archer release video. Duke's Fury, hey, yo! This is randomly selected, and I haven't selected really any of my friends so far, but Duke's Fury, always in my live stream chats, she says crazy, in-depth description of the field skills. It will be interesting to see how they worked. That's great you asked, Dukes, because that's what we're going to talk about right now. The other one that's got a $10 winner is Manual. Never thought I'd have more conversions than transmutation stones. Okay, that has to do with the other video I did yesterday that talked about the conversion stone refund, talked about Wedge and the update that all happened in the game. You can check that out as well. So those are your 2 winners, Manual and Duke's Fury. Okay, now we got to talk about our boy here. Okay, we got to figure this out. And let me pull him up real quick and kind of go through this thing. Is it here? I think it's here. This is our boy, Arslan. Okay, his name is Alp, by the way. Not Alp, not like the Alps, but Alp. Okay, he is the field commander, and he has such an interesting kit. It is so unique, and it's so weird how his kit works. But we're going to go through it and kind of figure it out, because there's some things he does. He's like the first infectious commander. He's like a carrier monkey commander, because he's going to like infect the target, okay, with buffs and his pierced stacking buff that does damage, and he's going to infect the target, and then the target's going to infect 3 enemy troops around it. That's not the target. It's kind of weird, but this dude has got some crazy buffing and debuffing abilities, okay? So let's talk about this real quick. Let's go through this and let's really understand this, because yesterday's video, I just went through and read it, and we all read it together, and that's kind of how it was. But now we understand this a little bit more, okay? He's got a rage requirement of 1,000, right? He's going to have a damage factor of 2,000 to a single target. That's not big. That's not much. That's like Boudica levels. Single target damage of 2,000. It's like not good at all. Okay. However, all right, this commander's troops also gains a Lion Soul effect for 10 seconds. Okay. The Lion Soul effect is going to inflict 1 stack of pierce on the target troop every 3 seconds. Okay. So just off his active skill, you're going to run that up to 3 stacks. And what does Pierce do? Pierce targets take additional damage every second for 5 seconds. Okay, so when you go do an active skill, you're going to inflict Pierce, and you're going to start doing 100 damage factor, okay, for 5 seconds. Well, then for the next, after 3 more seconds, it's gonna inflict another stack, and then another stack, and you're gonna rack this up to 3 stacks, and you're gonna be doing 3 stacks, okay, of 300 damage factor. Okay, so you got 300 damage factor, and you're going to be doing this for 5 seconds. So this is going to be perpetual. This is what people have to understand. Like, the red numbers are going to be perpetual. Okay, so in those 5 seconds, you're going to do 300 damage factor. That's 1,500 damage factor total to the target plus the 2,000. So over a 5-second period, when you're running up your active skills, okay, you're going to have a 3,500 damage factor, which is actually pretty good. And that's when you get them going. Now, if there's other ways we can get them going, let's find out. His second skill is actually kind of crazy. Okay, he has one of the best stacked sticks in the game. First and foremost, he's a field troop, right? He's not a rally commander. He's not a garrison commander. So when he's in the field, he gives you 25% health. That is massive. That's part of the reason why Shajar is so tanky, because she's got like 30% health. And you get 15% attack. That's a 40% stat stick, but that's not done. For the first 10 seconds after entering combat, basic attacks have a 50% chance to inflict 1 stack of Pierce. Oh, wait a minute. Now we don't have to wait for the active skill to fire off. We don't have to wait for this. We're immediately going to put up stacks. 50% chance to put up stacks. Okay, the cooldown is 5 seconds, but the bottom line is you're going to start to inflict those stacks of Pierce immediately. Okay, you're going to get to 3 stacks. Okay, it can stack up to 3 times. You're going to get to 3 stacks. That's not a problem. All right, and then the troops gain 10% bonus to healing received and 25% march speed. Now, the healing received, he doesn't do any healing, but Shajar does. And so what is there that we can do with him? Because there's like a couple of different paths here that are starting to be realized. He's got like kind of a damage path, and now we got some healing. Hey, wait a minute, what? We'll talk about that because we got to go through the buffs and debuffs, okay? We'll go into his third skill. Okay, this gets real complex. I'm going to read the first part of this skill and hope everybody understands, okay? I'm going to go through all these skills, by the way, and then I'm going to bring up some questions and things that we're going to think about when we test this guy. And I cooked with Daver on it. We went through it together, and he's got some really good questions, but we're not going to know until we test them. But this is his third skill. And for every 5 instances of debuffs inflicted, this commander's troop gains the benevolence effect for 10 seconds, okay? And when you have the benevolence effect, now this is for debuffs, all right? Now these pierce things that he's gonna inflict are considered debuffs, right? Okay, so when he racks that up to 5 instances, 5 pierce debuffs that he does, this commander troop gains the benevolence effect for 10 seconds. Basic attacks have a 50% chance to select up to 3 non-target enemy troops centered around the target troop. This is where that infectious thing I was telling you about was coming from. Like, he's gonna put the debuffs on the target, and then the target is gonna essentially spread those debuffs to everybody else. Now, here's the kicker. These non-target troops receive 2 debuffs of what's inflicted on the target troop by this commander. So Pierce now, if you've got 5 stacks of Pierce on the target, and then you have the benevolence effect, and you have a 50% chance to spread those to the 3 non-target enemy troops, okay, you're gonna spread them to give them 2 debuffs each. So now all of a sudden, this pierced effect that's doing 100 damage factor for 1 stack now has 200 damage factors for 2 stacks, and he's doing it to 3 targets in addition to the target. Holy gee, this is like a weird reverse chin way. Like, we're gonna do damage to the target, but then by doing damage to the target, we're doing damage to 3 enemy troops around it. Crazy. Okay, crazy. Now, not just the pierce, you see poison. Okay, we'll get into that in a second. And you also see slow. All right, normal damage and normal debuffs that we have as well. So that's like if you're doing any sort of defense mitigation or defense debuff, health debuff, anything like that, attack debuff, anything like that are normal debuffs. Okay, so you're able to do this. There's a 4-second cooldown on this, but being able to put 2 debuffs of Pierce on 3 targets and let it run for 5 seconds, okay, to where for 5 seconds they take 200 damage factor. Like, this guy, he's got some scalability with the damage. It's like really weird. It's really weird. He's unique. Why do they do this with archers? I'd never know, man. Archers are always like the commanders that they just try weird stuff with, and they tried it with Chin with his whole situation where he's doing AoE every second, converting basic attack into AoE skill damage. I mean, just crazy. And so now we're doing it like a weird way with this because he's a single target damage commander, but he's not really. He's like an AoE buff, debuff, and damage. Like, he's weird. Okay. Now, think about this, because when you think about Pierce and Poison and Slow, let's talk about the commanders we think about with Poison, right? We're going to talk about Hermann. Hermann Prime, one of our commanders. Like, because he's naturally going to be given stacks, okay? 2 stacks. You're going to be running up these stacks on the target. He has multiple ways to give those stacks, by the way. All right. There's a defense reduction there too. There's another normal stack. Okay. There's all kinds of stuff that he does. You can get stacks of poison, then you can do more damage with those stacks. There's all kinds of things you can do. Meanwhile, the poison stacks are making the target take more skill damage. Okay. So this is really kind of weird, because when you put this thing up and you're like, oh my gosh, now you can inflict poison, like infectious poison, to the target, and then that gets spread with the benevolence effect to the targets around him. So not only can you inflict damage with the pierced effect to those targets or to those enemy troops around the target, you can also do it with the poison. So now poison stacks are just going everywhere all the time, nonstop. It doesn't matter if they get hit with the AoE or not. If the target takes a poison stack and the benevolence is on, then you add more stacks to those marches around the target. Just crazy. Now, here's the other thing. The slow deal is another thing that we've got to think about. Now, there's not many commanders who have a slow, right? There are some. All right. I can't remember if Zuge, does he have a slow? No, I don't think he does. Increases marquee effect. No, I don't think he has a slow. I don't think he does. Okay. But there are other commanders here that have slows. All right. And the ones that I always kind of like to look at are more on the cavalry side that inflict a slow. You've got commanders like, let me see, Huo inflicts a slow. Okay, march speed reduction. You've got all kinds of different commanders that do that. Let me see. Infantry. Was there any archer commanders that inflicted a slow? All right, we can come through march speed reduction here on Luce. Let's see if we have anything on the archers, because there's one I know for sure. Okay, but let's see here. I don't think we have one with Hermann. He doesn't really have a slow. Now we do have one with Shajar. Okay, so we've got some synergies with Shajar. In either case, whether she's a primary or secondary commander, the target of the damage loses 50% march speed for 3 seconds. Now, wait a minute. You're saying I can inflict that slow on the target and then it spreads it to 3 enemy troops around? Not the target, but 3 enemy troops? All of a sudden, that's an AoE slow? Hey, yo. I mean, this dude's got some crazy stuff, y'all. Just crazy. Okay. Now, here's the other side of things. You got slow and normal debuffs. Okay. There's normal debuffs on a whole lot of people. Now, that's the debuffing side. Let's think about the buffing side, because while we're on Shajar, all of a sudden there's some synergies with Shajar here. Okay. For every 5 instances of buffs it provides, this commander's troop gains the malevolence effect. Okay, so you have the benevolence and the malevolence, okay, for 10 seconds. Same thing, it's just now we're talking about buffs. You have a 50% chance to heal a percentage of slightly wounded units when dealing direct damage or true damage. Okay, so there's more Shajar synergies there, and it's equal to 20% of the damage factor. So when he's doing a bunch of damage factor and he's using his pierced stacks and he's doing damage to the target, how do we get this thing in a situation to where he's doing healing off that damage every second, that additional damage? Okay, now this is direct damage is not additional damage, so it just might be working off of his active skill, and that's what I think it is. But you also have true damage there. But Shajar as a primary can do a lot of direct damage, like a lot, and it's equal to 20% of the damage factor. Huh? Interesting. You have a 50% chance, so that can pop off whenever. Now, if it hits during the primary commander's active skill, you're going to be cooled down. You can't get it for the secondaries, but just about with 50%, you're going to get it. You're going to get this every skill cycle. That's just what you're going to get. Okay, and you come down here and say poison, or you got the pierced, obviously, with Arslan and his heroic lion and the archery skill he's got. And then you have poison that's inflicted by Tommy, we know that, and Hermann Prime, we know that. Slow, Shajar's got a slow. Other commanders of other troop types have slows. And the normal debuffs is just straight attack, defense, health, or healing. All that stuff. Okay? All that stuff. And so from there, if you're putting down healing, there's multiple things that this guy is doing. True damage calculation is not affected by the attacking troops attack or the defending troops defense. Okay, we all know what true damage is. That sounds completely fine. Okay, but he's got a buffing and debuffing. But how many other buffs can he do? Let's come back to that. We're going to come back to that in just a second. Okay, his 4 skill is kind of interesting. Whenever he's a field troop, when using an active skill, this commander troop deals direct damage to the target troop, and the damage factor is the number of debuffs on target troop times 100 for a maximum damage factor of 1,000. Well, if he's laying down pierced like crazy and you're laying down poisons like crazy, this is going to be 1,000 damage factor. So now all of a sudden you take the pierced effect that's putting 1,500 damage factor on the target and then inflicting 200 damage factor for 5 seconds on 3 other targets. Let's see, 200 times 5 is what, 1,000? And it's 3 targets. It's another 3,000 damage factor for 5 seconds. Okay, is that how we have it? 3,000 damage factor for 5 seconds when it comes to his skill here? Like you put 2 debuffs on Pierce? Oh yeah, absolutely, because Pierced is going to do it for 5 seconds. Okay, so maximum damage, and then he's going to add another 1,000 damage. Just crazy, and I don't see a cooldown on that. That's just nuts. Whenever you use an active skill, you're going to deal direct damage to the target. Like, this guy is going to ramp up the damage like crazy. He's going to ramp up the damage like crazy, whether it's on the target or it's on the target with enemy marches around using Pierce. This is like nuts, man. And then the second part of this is when the commander troop deals skill damage, it has a 50% chance to take 10% less damage for 3 seconds. Wait a minute, that's a buff. And I don't see any cooldown on that. So you can get that 50% twice in an active skill with the primary firing off and the secondary if they're both skill damage commanders. But that's a buff, guys. Now, all of a sudden, if that's a buff, we're racking up the buffs the second half with the malevolence effect. Holy jeez, we got all kinds. This dude's like a buffing and debuffing psychopath. What are we doing? Holy jeez, what are we doing? And you get that damage mitigation, which is always pretty good. But the fact is that damage mitigation is a buff. Okay, so let's think about this here. If you pair this dude with Shajar, and it doesn't matter if she is primary or secondary. She does mighty healing as secondary, does a lot of single target damage as a primary, plus you get healing from Arslan. You get healing from him based on the direct damage factor, which is crazy. Then you got massive health. Oh my God, this would be like the tankiest March ever. 20% March speed plus 25% March speed. I like this with Shajar. Now, I think it's going to be amazing with Hermann, and it's probably going to be really good with Zuge, but it's amazing all the way around. Also, your troops take 10% less normal damage. Okay, great. And then you do this mighty healing to 3 targets. Okay, so you're healing 3 targets, but then you have the expertise to where the troops that are being healed are getting a 20% buff. So you're laying down buffs everywhere with Shajar. Okay, so we got some synergies with Shajar. I'm not saying that this guy's going to be like the greatest with Shajar, because I think he's probably going to be better with a damage dealer, but there's some application there, and I'll get into that because as a smite guy and me as a combo guy that's running a lot of smite and combo marches out there, I love that normal damage from Shajar. And now you got some synergies and different pairings. Okay, so let's go to his expertise, all right? We'll look at this, and then we'll get into the questions we want to ask, and I will tell you if this guy's going to be a meta commander or not, okay? On the expertise, when this commander's troop inflicts a debuff, and inflicted targets lose 5% defense for 5 seconds, okay? So you're adding another debuff to the inflicted targets, okay? And if that debuff is being spread by the benevolent effect, okay, with the debuff at the top, then you're inflicting another debuff of losing 5% defense for 5 seconds, and it can stack up to 2 times, but you're literally taking 4 marches, the target and 3 other marches, 4 total, and you're putting a 10% debuff on those targets. Like, it's stacks on stacks on stacks. Like, this is just like, what are we doing? This can be triggered up to 3 times per second, of course, because we know that it can trigger and hit other marches. The cooldown's only 1 second. Oh my gosh. And then the second part of the expertise, which is really, really interesting, is when this commander's troop provides healing or buffs. Okay, this guy's like literally 2 different commanders in one. He's a crazy debuffing commander that does a ton of damage. And then he's also a buffing commander that enhances buffing and all the effects of buffing and all the malevolence effect of buffing. There's all kinds of stuff this guy does. And when this commander's troop provides healing or buffs, like Shajar healing and buffs everywhere. Healed or buffed targets gain 2% defense for 5 seconds, and this can stack up to 5 times. And its duration resets whenever it gains another stack. It can be triggered up to 3 times per second. Okay, that just fits right in line with Shajar healing 3 marches. And each target troop can trigger the effect up to 1 time per second. Wow. Like, that's kind of crazy what this guy does. So I think the TLDR to this dude is that he's got all these different effects, okay? And he does the pierced effect, and then he does the benevolent effect, okay, at the top. And then he does a bunch of buffing effects and then enhances those with the malevolence effect at the bottom of this, or at the second part of this. So he can be paired with multiple commanders. So let's go through those pairings real quick. This is what I see, especially in a 2-march lineup. Okay, especially in a 2-march archer lineup, and that's what everybody's needing right now. Okay, here's Chin, right? Chin is doing his iron pierces bronze. Okay, he's doing that. And he's doing archer march speed, he's doing defense bonus, health bonus, rage consumption, all that stuff. And then he's got this stuff going on where he drains, okay? This is a drain effect, and it's pretty crazy, all right? The subsequent trigger affects 25% less damage last. Like, this dude is so tanky, it's just so nuts what this guy does, okay? But he's not really doing buffs and debuffs, okay? So he's probably not the greatest at this. I'm just trying to figure this out. Chin's probably going to carry anybody. And if this dude, if this Arslan guy, if Arslan is really that good, then Chin, you can put up with Chin and you're going to be fine. But he's got more synergies with Hermann. Poison stacks on poison stacks on poison stacks. Okay. And then the benevolent effect that's going to put poison stacks on the target and then on subsequent enemy troops around it. On poison stacks on poison stack. Like, this is just crazy. It's nuts. I love him with Hermann. Like, I think we're going to be in a Chin Zuge and a Hermann Arslan. And you want to run Hermann primary because Hermann's got the support tree. Now, if Arslan has a support tree, you could probably run him primary as well. But then you've also got Shajar, and this is interesting. We've never really had a commander that pairs with Shajar in the field. Like Chin does, and it's super tanky, but you're just not doing near as much damage as a Chin Zuge or a Chin YSG. But if you got Shajar, and she's got healing effects, and she's got buffing effects, and she's got march speed debuffing effects, like, you got all kinds of stuff going on with her. Like, I'm going to be real interested to see that, because I think we're going to see Hermann with this guy, with Arslan, and I think we're going to see Shajar. That's what I think we're going to see. And then if you're running Chin, you can easily run Zuge or YSG. Keep that the same. Those of you who are running one Archer March right now with Chin Zuge or Chin YSG, and if you've got Hermann or Shajar, then you could go run them with Arslan, okay? Now, this isn't a full-blown guide on this guy, but we're just kind of giving you the idea of what the pairings are going to be and how they're going to be, okay? And so from there, I don't know how else we can work on this thing. I mean, if you want to pull up Boudica, if you want to pull up some of these old commanders, I don't really think so. But if you have Chin with Zuge, okay, and this is what I want to get into. Okay, what's the importance of this guy? Where's this guy going to be at? Let's pull him up here. Where is this dude going to be at? He's got crazy skills. All right, but is he going to be a must-max commander? I don't know. I really don't think so. Like, he does crazy stuff, and I think he's going to be potentially be super powerful. And this is the stuff we've got to test out. I talked to Daver about this. We're going to test this a ton. Okay, but the main thing we want to know are the synergy, debuffs, and the damage. How far can you scale his DPS? And that has to do with his pierced effects. That also has to do with his third skill that puts the benevolence effect on it. Okay, where he's adding pierced effects to multiple targets and doing damage all over the place. And then his 4 skill where he does another 1,000 damage. Okay, it's just crazy what this guy can do. So we got to test that DPS. The second thing, how much, okay, of a lack of this flat skill damage bonus is this? He has no skill damage buffing. He is not adding any bonus to skill damage, okay? How much does that affect him? Is he more of a buffing, debuffing commander? Or does he do damage in different ways? But you really can't put him, like I said, with Chen, because the main thing you want with Chen, he does so much DPS and damage every second. You want to put him with commanders that ramp up the skill damage, okay? The skill damage bonuses. And of course, YSG, as we know, has more than anybody. That's why he's so good with them. All right, but when you look at this guy, he literally has no skill damage bonuses. All right, so we're gonna have to see how that translates into the actual damage he does, how much lower that is, okay? And how good is his support and debuffing ability? Like if you put him with Shajar, how good is that? With the benevolence effect, okay? And then we also wanna know how sustainable he is. Well, I think with sustainable, like let's look at this. You're gonna put 25% March speed with this guy? He's already got 15% March speed. You're going to put 25% or 25% March speed with her? That's 45% March speed. And then the health bonus? I mean, guys, 60% health, super tanky, a lot of debuffing, a lot of buffing. I don't know. I'm liking Shajar more and more. Now, I think it's going to be Hermann, but I'm liking this more and more. Like a more and more. Holy jeez. And his March speed is a plot, like 45% March speed. They're going to be running around like cavalry. I'm all in on that. That's why I used to run 2 archers. My Boudica would get rocked because she had no March speed. Just get destroyed. But I like this. Holy jeez. And so you have this AoE effect with the Pierce stuff. You have all kinds of stuff going on. Okay. But is he meta? Is he going to be meta? We're going to test all of those things. We're going to test them all and we're going to see. Okay. He's got the skill tree, which enhances some bonuses to skill damage. All right. But honestly, with Hermann, I'd probably run him secondary. And if we're going to run him with Shajar, we'd probably try to figure out if we run her primary and let her be a direct damage dealer, or run her secondary and let her be the healer while Arslan runs the primary, which is kind of disjointed because he's got a skill tree, but you don't want to run the skill tree with Shajar secondary because Shajar's not doing skill damage. So there's all kinds of different ways to look at that. We're going to get into this more and more. I'm not going to claim him to be a must-max commander right now. However, if you are running 2 Archer Marches, he's a lot like Gang for Cavalry, right? Gang for Cavalry, all right, when he came out into the game, he was a welcome sight. And the reason why is because we had no other options for combo. So Gang was like legit. He was great. Stick him in there. We're going. Okay, and so with that being said, it's kind of the same thing. If you want to run 2 Archer Marches, you've got to think about, obviously, Chen. That's not going anywhere. That's still going to be the most potent March, but you got to think about this guy. Because I think as a must-max commander, like, oh my God, you got to have him. If you don't have him, you're going to get wrecked. I don't know if that's necessarily the case because of the buffing and debuffing, and you really don't see the reports from that, but you know it's doing crazy stuff, and maybe the reports are really good depending on the damage output he does. Okay, but Chen is the must-max, obviously. Okay, and so from there, if you're running 2 Archer Marches, then he's going to creep into that must-max category because we need a really good second Archer March. And if you pair him with Shajar, super fast March. You pair him with Hermann, still a really fast March, 30% March speed, or 40%, I think, 15%. Whatever it is, it's like crazy. Anyways, so there's your breakdown of this commander, okay? We're going to have to do the testing, and you guys know me. I'm going to do all the testing. We're going to figure this thing out, and Daver's going to go cook on that stuff. By the way, love Daver, guys. I've got his link down in the description for his toolbox. Buy him a cup of coffee. This guy does so much stuff. He works with me every day on this stuff, and we love to cook on this. So we've got things to test with this guy. We think it can be really, really good, all right? And he might have a couple of different pairings with Hermann and Shajar, and then leaving Chen with Zhuge or Chen with YSG. Okay, if you have Zhuge and YSG and you want to put one of them with Chen and you want to put the other one with Arslan, I'm probably going to think it's Zhuge. That Zhuge is the one you're going to want to put with them, but we'll get into more of that later because I'll actually have an actual guide for Arslan. This is more just a just a video to help explain and really open up the capabilities of what this guy can do now that the archers have been released. So if you enjoyed this video, throw a like on here, really helps out the channel, helps out everything. Also, don't forget to enter to win the $10 Flux giveaway by making a comment on this video. I'll give it away in the next video. We'll have a winner for this one. Congratulations to our winners today. Also, don't forget to join my Discord. The link is down in the description. That's where a lot of these conversations come into play. And with that being said, we'll get the Garrison next. We'll talk about them next. So think about that for tomorrow. And you guys have a great day, broskies.